The jungle was quiet again after the beast slipped back into the shadows. Marcus had stood ready to fight, but the predator had chosen another path. Perhaps it feared the fire in his eyes, or perhaps it had seen easier prey elsewhere. Either way, the danger passed, leaving only the human and the alien girl in the dim light of the clearing. The alien girl still crouched inside the broken net. Her hands shook as she touched the ground. Her glowing violet eyes never left Marcus. She breathed fast, every muscle tense. She looked like she was deciding whether to run or scream. Marcus lowered his knife and stepped back. He raised his hands to show he meant no harm. His voice was soft, careful. "Safe now," he said. He knew she could not understand all his words, but maybe his tone would reach her. The girl shook her head, her lips trembling. She whispered something in her own language, her voice broken and sharp. Marcus could not understand her words, but the meaning was heavy. Fear, deep fear. Fear that he could feel even without knowing the language. When Marcus tried to step closer, the girl pressed herself against the roots of a tree. Her body curled like she wanted to vanish inside the bark. She pulled her knees up and wrapped her arms around them. Her whole form said only one thing: she believed he would hurt her. He reached into his pack and pulled out dried food, a piece of fruit he had saved from his last hunt. Slowly, he placed it on the ground between them. His hand moved away carefully. He pointed at the food, then at her. He gave a small nod. But the girl only shook her head. Her lips moved again, whispering. The word was clearer now. "Poison," she said in a broken echo of his language. Her people must have taught her some human words. Words filled with warning. She believed the food was a trick. Marcus sighed. He sat down on the ground, showing his empty hands. He took a small bite of the fruit himself and chewed slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. He swallowed and then smiled. Gently, he hoped she would see the truth. The alien girl blinked, her expression shifting for just a moment. She tilted her head, confused, yet still she did not touch the food. Her body trembled like a bird too close to a predator. The night grew colder. The mist around them thickened, and strange sounds echoed again in the distance. Marcus knew they could not stay exposed for long. He pointed to the thicker trees, to a place where he had built a small shelter of wood and leaves. He made a motion with his hand, inviting her to follow. Her eyes widened in panic. She shook her head fast. She thought he was taking her away to some dark fate. To her, his shelter was a cage, not a home. Marcus rubbed his forehead. He had survived battles, storms, and beasts. But he had never faced fear like this. A fear that could not be broken with strength, only with patience. He stayed where he was, letting her see that he would not force her. He lit a small fire between them, the sparks glowing bright in the night. The alien girl flinched at first, but then her eyes softened as the warmth touched her skin. Firelight made her features glow. Her silver-violet hair caught the light and shimmered like strands of stars. Marcus sat quietly, feeding the fire. He wanted her to know he could wait. He would not rush her trust. Hours passed slowly. The girl never ran, never attacked, but never relaxed either. She stayed near the roots of the tree, eyes always on him. Her voice sometimes whispered in her own tongue, words he could not understand, yet he felt the pain in her tone. Finally, near dawn, her strength seemed to weaken. Her body leaned against the tree. Her eyes closed for a moment. Marcus noticed the deep lines of exhaustion on her face. She was not only afraid, she was tired, maybe even wounded. Marcus stood carefully, took his blanket, and placed it halfway between them on the ground. He did not try to give it to her directly. He left it there, a silent offer. Then he returned to his place by the fire. The alien girl looked at the blanket for a long time. Her hands trembled. At last she crawled slowly, each move cautious. She took the blanket and wrapped it around herself. Her eyes darted back to him, but when he made no move, she stayed under its warmth. For the first time, her trembling slowed, her breathing eased. She whispered something soft in her own language, words Marcus could not understand, but her voice carried less fear and more confusion. She stared at him across the fire, her violet eyes shining like jewels in the fading night. She did not trust him, not yet, but something inside her had changed. Her fear was still strong, but so was her curiosity. Marcus looked back, his own heart heavy yet calm. He knew this was only the beginning. Between them stood a wall of fear and stories told by her people. But perhaps with time, that wall could break. The sun rose slowly over the alien jungle, painting the mist with gold. The girl sat under his blanket, her eyes locked on him. Marcus sat by the fire, silent, patient, waiting. The night had been full of fear and misunderstanding, but the new day carried a promise that maybe, just maybe, fear could turn into something else. The jungle was alive with strange sounds. Shadows moved under the trees. Glowing eyes peeked from the darkness, and the air was heavy with mist. The human soldier, Marcus, moved carefully between the roots and vines. His stomach was empty, his muscles sore, and he knew he had to catch something to eat soon. He had been stranded on this alien world for many days, and survival was not easy. He carried rope and sharp tools. He searched for a clearing where animals might walk. After some time he found a narrow path marked with broken branches and claw prints. The prints were large, too large for him to fight directly. He decided to set a trap, a net woven with tough vines lifted high, waiting to drop on anything that triggered it. Marcus worked in silence, every movement careful. He tied knots with steady hands. His eyes scanned the forest again and again. He had learned to trust nothing here. The jungle was full of creatures, some loud and some quiet, and many of them deadly. Once the trap was ready, he hid nearby, blending with the shadows. The night came quickly. The sky above was blocked by leaves, and only faint light passed through. Marcus waited, his breath slow, his ears listening to every sound. A strange rustle moved near the trap. He gripped his knife, his heart beating fast. This was the moment. The rope snapped, the net fell, and a cry filled the jungle. But it was not the roar of a beast. It was a voice, sharp and trembling. A girl's voice. Marcus jumped up. He ran to the trap, and what he saw made him freeze. Inside the net was not an animal, but a girl. Her skin glowed faintly purple under the moonlight. Her long hair shimmered like strands of silver mixed with violet. Her eyes, wide with fear, glowed brighter than fireflies. She was beautiful, alien, and trapped. She struggled, pulling at the vines, her body twisted as she tried to escape. Her voice spoke words Marcus did not understand, but the fear in her tone was clear. She thought he was going to kill her. Marcus lowered his knife and stepped closer. "Wait," he said softly. His voice was calm. He tried to show he was not a threat. But the alien girl pressed back, her chest rising fast, her eyes darting around for escape. She spoke again, her words broken, almost desperate. Marcus caught only one familiar sound. "Eat." She thought he was going to eat her. He frowned, his heart heavy. He had seen fear before, but never like this. The stories her people must have told about humans, monsters, hunters, devourers. It was written on her face. Marcus raised his hands slowly to show peace. He touched the net and pulled gently, but the girl flinched as if his touch was fire. Her beauty and terror struck him at the same time. She was not a beast, not an enemy, but someone lost and scared. The jungle around them grew louder, animals moving in the dark. Marcus knew they were not safe. He had to decide. Should he cut her free and risk her attacking him later? Or should he keep her trapped until he knew more? The girl's eyes locked on his. A silent plea shone through her fear. Marcus felt a strange pull in his chest. He had set the trap to survive. But instead he had caught a secret, a life, a story that could change everything. He crouched near her, his knife against the vine. The moment stretched. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. She trembled, whispering again that word, "Eat." Her voice shaking, Marcus whispered back, "No." His voice carried both promise and truth. He cut one vine, then another. Slowly, carefully, he freed her hands. She stared at him, confusion and fear battling in her eyes. Then, from the shadows, something growled, a low and dangerous sound. Marcus spun around, knife ready. His trap had not caught the beast, but the beast had found them. The alien girl gasped, her fear of Marcus forgotten for a moment. Her eyes widened at the predator moving toward them. Marcus stood firm, his knife small against the darkness. The girl's breath came fast. She realized this human was not the danger she thought. The real danger was still coming, and so the night deepened. The trap had caught more than Marcus expected. Not food, not prey, but the beginning of something far more dangerous and far more important. Asterisk. The new day rose, golden light breaking through the misty jungle. Birds with crystal wings sang high in the trees. Strange creatures scuttled between the roots. The fire Marcus had built burned low, filling the air with smoke and warmth. The alien girl sat wrapped in his blanket, her violet eyes fixed on him. She had not spoken, not truly, but she watched every move he made. Her face was still full of fear, but there was something else now, curiosity. Marcus busied himself with small tasks. Sharpening his knife, checking the ropes, he tried not to look at her too directly. He knew she needed space. But he also knew the silence between them was heavy. She shifted under the blanket, her eyes darting to the vines of the broken net still lying nearby. Her thin fingers touched them, tracing their strength. A thought crossed her mind, escape. She waited until Marcus turned his back. He bent low, pouring water from his flask into a pot to boil. The girl moved quickly, her hands pulled at the vines, tying them together, making a tool. Her breathing grew fast. Her heart pounded. She thought, if she could cut a path or climb away, she might be free before he noticed. Marcus glanced over his shoulder, and she froze. Her glowing eyes met his. She hid her hands under the blanket, pretending to be still. His gaze lingered, but he said nothing. He turned back to the pot. The girl felt a rush of courage. She tied the vine sharp against a stone, creating a rough blade. Slowly, silently, she began cutting at the ropes near the shelter. The fibers split one by one. Her thoughts raced. He is human. He is dangerous. If she ran fast enough, maybe she could reach her people. She imagined their voices, telling her she had been right all along. Humans cannot be trusted. Humans devour. Humans destroy. But her hands trembled as she cut. Somewhere deep inside, another thought whispered, "He saved me from the beast. He gave me warmth. He did not strike me. He did not poison me." Still, fear was stronger than trust. At last, the vine snapped. She looked toward the jungle, her body tense, ready to run. Marcus still knelt by the fire, unaware, or so she thought. She rose slowly, her feet silent on the damp earth. The blanket slid from her shoulders. Her silver violet hair caught the sunlight. She took one step, then another. Her heart raced, her breath sharp. But before she could take the third step, a branch cracked under her foot. Marcus turned. His eyes caught her movement. In a second he was on his feet, knife in hand. His voice echoed, firm. "Stop." The girl froze. Her chest rose and fell like a cornered animal. Her glowing eyes wide with fear. She gripped the sharp stone in her hand, ready to fight if he came closer. Marcus did not move forward. His knife stayed low. His voice softened. "No hurt," he said, pointing to himself. "Safe." His words were broken, but his meaning clear. The girl shook her head. Her lips formed a human word again. "Eat." Her voice cracked. Her fear spilled out. She believed if she stayed, he would consume her, not with teeth, but with power. Marcus's heart sank. He lowered his knife completely and tossed it to the ground. The blade stuck in the soil. He raised both hands high, his body open. He showed her he would not fight. He would not stop her. For a long moment, the jungle was silent. Only the call of birds echoing. The girl's eyes flicked from the knife to him. Her body trembled. She expected a trick, a sudden strike, but none came. Then a sound broke the silence, low and guttural. A growl rolled from the shadows. The predator from the night before had returned. Its scaled body moved through the mist, fangs glistening, claws carving the earth. The alien girl gasped, her escape forgotten. She stepped back, her stone weapon useless against such a beast. The predator's eyes locked on her. Its jaw opened wide. Marcus did not hesitate. He grabbed a burning branch from the fire and charged. His shout cut through the air. He swung the flaming wood. Sparks flying, the beast snarled, snapping its jaws, but the fire drove it back. The girl stood frozen, her wide eyes fixed on the human. He fought not for himself alone, but for her, his. Arms strong, his voice loud. His courage burned as bright as the fire in his hands. The beast hissed and retreated, vanishing once more into the mist. Silence returned, broken only by Marcus's heavy breathing. He dropped the branch and looked back at the girl, his chest heaving, sweat shining on his skin. Her stone weapon slipped from her fingers. She could not understand. He had every chance to let the beast take her, to free himself of her, but instead, he saved her life again. Her violet eyes filled with confusion. Fear still wrapped around her heart. But now another feeling fought to break through. Doubt. Doubt in the stories her people had told. Doubt in the terror that kept her chained. Marcus picked up his knife from the ground, but he held it backward, showing it was no threat. He returned to the fire slowly, his voice calm. Safe, he repeated. The girl's knees weakened. She sat back against the roots, her eyes locked on him. The word safe echoed in her ears. Her people had never said that word about humans. And yet, she had heard it twice now, not as a lie, but as a promise. The jungle grew quiet again. The fire burned steady, and between them, in the space once filled only with fear, something else began to grow, fragile and uncertain, but real.